So we're going to get some practice now with writing some names for ionic compounds and also for some formulas. Now, for the most part, if it's ionic, what you're going to have is you're going to have a metal plus a non-metal. That's how you're going to know it's ionic, because metals form positive ions, non-metals form negative ions, and those will form an ionic bond. Now, the one exception to this really is ammonia or ammonium. Ammonium is the one positive polyatomic ion that you need to be familiar with. So it's possible that you'll have an ionic compound that starts with ammonium, so it's not really starting with a metal, it's starting with this polyatomic ion. But that won't be for every single one. So if we look at this, the first thing you need to do is basically, let's just draw a line through here. Here's our metal, this is iron, and then this has to be our negative ion. And it's made up of nitrogen and oxygen, one nitrogen, three oxygens, so this has to be a polyatomic ion. So to name it, you just write down the name of the positive ion, and you write down the name of the negative ion. Now, when you look on your ion sheet for iron, you're going to see that iron can be two different charges. It can be iron 2 or it can be iron 3. And we got to figure out which one this one is. So to do that, you have to look at your negative ion. So let's look this up first. So you find NO3 on your polyatomic ion. So look for that now, pause this, and write the name down, and let's see if we get the same one. So NO3 is nitrate, ATE. And you have to be careful because there's an NO2 which is nitrite. There's some of these that are very similar to this. And nitrate has a charge of -1. Now, if you have more than one of a polyatomic ion, it has to go into parentheses because we need 3 of these. So if we have 3 nitrates, this total charge is -3. Now, the charge of an ionic compound has to add up to 0. So if the negative charge is -3, this iron has to be +3. We only have one iron, so it's got to be +3, so this adds up to 0. So this iron has to be iron +3. And the name for that is iron, Roman numeral 3. So here's the name for this compound. You have to have the Roman numeral because you don't know, if you don't have the Roman numeral in the name, you don't know if you're talking about +2 or +3. Alright, here's another ionic compound we can look at. So, remember, ionic compounds are generally a metal plus a non-metal. But you look at this, nitrogen's not a metal, so something has to be going on here. And you have to recognize that this is a positive polyatomic ion. So NH4 is, what's the name for that? So find NH4 on your ion sheet and write the name down. So this is ammonium. And if NH4 is your positive ion, then the rest of it has to be your negative ion. And this is made up of phosphorus and 4 oxygens. So this has to be a polyatomic ion. So you look up PO4 on your ion sheet, find that name, and then write it down here. And it turns out you should have figured out that PO4 is phosphate. So this is ammonium phosphate. And I don't think I said it before, but to name these, you just name the positive ion, then you name the negative ion. Alright, here's another example. So this starts with metal. So we got Pb, that's our positive ion. We got O for oxygen, that's our negative ion. So if we name this and we name that, we're going to have the name for our compound. So this is lead. Now, when you look on your ion sheet for lead, you're going to see though that there are two different charges that lead can have. Lead can be +2 or lead can be +4. So we're going to have to use the negative ion, the anion, to figure out what the charge must be on this ion. So O, if you find O on your ion sheet, remember oxygen becomes oxide. That's our negative ion. And it's got a charge of -2. And since we have two oxides, the total negative charge is -4. Now, we have one lead, so what times 1 will give us a +4 to cancel out our negative charge? Because remember, the total charge has to add up to 0. And it's got to be +4, because that will give us +4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So this lead has to have a charge of +4. And if you look on your ion sheet, Pb +4 is lead and Roman numeral 4 oxide. So that's how you do it. You use the negative ion to figure that out. Alright, let's look at this example. So it starts with aluminum, and that means this must be our negative ion. Now, it's made up of more than one atom. We have oxygen, we have hydrogen, so this must be a polyatomic ion. So, we'll name this, we'll name this. That'll give us the name of our compound. So Al, by now you should know that that is just aluminum. And then what's OH? Find OH on your ion sheet. And OH is called hydroxide. So this is aluminum hydroxide. We're done. Alright, now what I've done is I've actually gone over to the Quizlet that I've made to give you some practice on this, and the links to this are on our My Big Campus website, or you can ask me and I can email it to you. So this is the same thing, and this will help you check it. So we have Ca, which is calcium, if I can spell right, and then Cl is chloride, and you just check your answer. And let's see, actually somehow I spelled that wrong, but I think it was close, so I'll hit the override. I was right. So the next one, Na is sodium, and N is nitride. Make sure you can type, that'll help it like this. So there's sodium nitride. So we just keep going like this, and aluminum iodide. So this will help you a lot if you look at the Quizlet